Hi there, I'm your host June Mack, and you're listening to the Little PsychicPodcast, the podcast with easy to understand, fun and down-to-earth spiritual learning which awakens in you the infinite intuitive power we all hold within. Little Psychic, I hope to ignite, nurture and drive your own psychic expansion. Are you ready? Welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast. I'm your host, June Mack. I am a psychic medium teacher and business coach to the spiritual entrepreneur. In this episode, I feature Naomi Haigh, who is a psychic medium and spiritual mentor. We're going to be diving into some of the myths, truths, and everyday realities of living as a psychic in today's world. If you've ever wondered how to embrace your gifts, integrate intuition into your life and business, and break free from outdated stereotypes, then this episode is going to be for you. I'd also like to take this opportunity to let you know that this live version of Psychic School Elite will begin on March 17. So if you've been thinking about jumping in, now is the time. This program is for you if you have been wanting to make this year it in terms of your psychic and mediumship development. If you are desiring to transform from not feeling 100% confident in your abilities, in your connection to spirit, and turn that into actually refining your own psychic and mediumship abilities, turn that into feeling confident about your business offerings, what it is you are here to do and who it is you are here to help and how to do that. That is what Psychic School Elite is for. If you are wanting to join me in this and actually make this year a thing for you and come out as a confident psychic medium light worker, then jump to junemac.com/psychic school elite, and I would be so very honored to have you. Hello and welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast. Today I'm actually really excited because I have a very special guest with me today, Naomi Haigh, who I guess on the short I would like to introduce, who is someone who is also a psychic medium and spiritual mentor and also the host of the Modern Psychic Podcast. I am very excited to have you. Thank you so much for being on, Naomi.
Thank you, June, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I mainly work with other spiritual entrepreneurs, healers, anything from like massage therapists to energy workers to I've worked with like electricians and and all about opening up your spiritual gifts to help you bring them into your business and your lives more, to actually use them in your business and your life more, integrate them. And so that's like the gist of what I do. I offer one-on-one mentorships, I offer classes, I offer I do events. And so I do audience readings where I kind of get people interested in mediumship, and I do, open demonstrations so people can see what is mediumship, what is this all about, and describe what a medium is. And a lot of people resonate with that, and they're like, I think I'm a medium. And then it's like, okay, cool, let's work on opening your skills and getting those going. And so and then I talk on my podcast about opening your spiritual gifts in all kinds of different ways and bring people on like you. I've had you that hasn't aired yet, but it's coming. And just giving everybody a glimpse of all the different ways that people can tap into their intuitive abilities and actually bring them out and implement them in their lives. So that's kind of the gist of what I do.
Yeah, good intro. See what I mean? I always love listening to people's intros, and also just making me smile because everything that you're saying is
I vibe with all of it. It's very similar to what it is that I do, and it makes me laugh as to how these connections take place, which I will talk about in a second, how I found you. But before I get to that, where are you from? Because you know what? You're actually my first international guest that I've got.
Really?
Yeah, on the podcast. So tell everybody where you're from, Naomi.
Awesome. Well, I'm from the United States. I live in Utah, in northern Utah. So, yep, that's where I'm at.
Which is amazing. How I actually came across you, which I was going to say, I was literally just scrolling through Facebook, and I'm part of quite a few of the podcasting groups, you know, that ask for special guests and things like that. And I think I mentioned it to you when I was on your podcast that I like to call it when spirit snags you. Or they just grab your attention, and you know, sort of like you get this feeling like stop, like stop scrolling. And I saw, oh, the Modern Psychic podcast, like that's cool. And your call out for guests, you know, guest speakers. And I don't know if you're the same, but I always do sort of a bit of research before I actually go and apply um to these things. And it's funny because obviously I was just instantly stopped and drawn to you. And when I had a look at what it is that you do, I was like, hang on a minute. This is very aligned with what it is that I do as well. So it made me smile how the synchronicities, you know, take place. And I was like,
Oh yeah, and you were my first Aussie
yeah,
on my
yes.
like, oh, I've never had someone
Yeah,
from
see, there we
Australia.
go. We're each other's first.
Yep.
And actually, when I was talking to you, before I sort of get into the topic of the podcast, which is around what it means to be, you know, a modern psychic for you, and to me, I actually really liked your story about how your abilities came online, because everyone's stories are different. And, you know, there are some people that sort of have these experiences their whole life, and then there are others that don't. So I thought your story was really cool if you wanted to share it.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I was one of the ones that don't. I don't feel like I grew up or with having abilities as a child. I never saw spirit, really sensed it at all. To my knowledge, I was always an open-minded kid, and even going into young adult, even my teenager years, I was a seeker. Like I was wanting to seek information, seek knowledge about what spirituality meant, what God meant, what people believed in. Like I always had that natural curiosity, but I didn't ever have like my own real answers. It was always just seeking. Like I don't know, I want to know. And so I remember just out of high school or even in high school, I would go to like the different churches around my town because Utah, for people that are in the United States, is mostly known for their main religion is Mormonism.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a lot of Mormons in Utah.
I
And
didn't know that.
founded by Mormons. And so that's the main religion, but there are other churches and other things here too. So every time someone finds out that I'm from Utah, they're like, "Are you a Mormon?" I'm like, "No, like there are other people here besides just Mormons." And so yeah, I was one of the ones. I would go to Mormon churches. I would go to I visited Catholic churches, Protestant churches, Southern Baptist churches. Like I even after high school, I went to like a Jewish church.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the technical name is for that. I'm sure it is. They have one. Like Roman Catholic, where they do the smoke, like walking
That's
up
what I grew up. I grew up
the
Roman
chant.
Catholic.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And so like I was just, a lot of different Christian churches, and stuff. And like, I would just go and sit and just listen. And I was just like, I'm just curious. Like, I want to see what they believe. And if anything kind of rings true for me. And so I think, I always kind of had this like inner intuition of, you know, I have to make sure it feels good to me first. I knew that I always trusted myself before anybody else, like growing up. But I didn't know that that was called intuition. And so but went through high school, I was a single mom in high school. I was a pregnant teen. I got pregnant when I was 16 and had my son, my first son, when I was 17, still in, like, I think it's 11th grade. And did the whole single mom thing, got myself through college, decided I want to keep going through college. And so I was working single mom, got a bunch of college degrees. I've got 4.
Wow.
Because I just wanted to keep going. And school always came easy to me. It was just, like, I was one of those people where I could just go and listen to a quick lecture and be like, oh, okay, I get it, and take a test and ace it. And then it's like, yeah, okay, let's keep going. But I loved learning. And so it wasn't until I finished my my MBA and then I got a job as a business analyst in the banking industry, and I was in the tech field of the banking industry. And so I was there for about 6, almost 7 years. And around my 7th year of being there, I just started getting this feeling like I had gotten married. I had another son, and we had moved to southern Utah for a little bit. And so it was only like a year after we had moved to southern Utah, I just started getting this weird feeling. And I was like, feels like there's something coming and I need to be ready for it. And it's big. And I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And so I kept telling my husband that throughout the year. And he was like, well, maybe you need to get your energy read. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I had never heard of that before. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, there's people that do that. They do, like, they can balance your energy. And I'm like, I don't know.
I love it how it was hubby that suggested this to you.
Exactly. And I was like, how do you know about
Yeah.
this? But he's like one of those people that just knows all these random, things. Like, he just likes to Google stuff. And if he doesn't know something, he'll do research on it.
And he's like, get your energy read.
Yep. And so that's what kind of drew me to him, was just like, you just like know all this random stuff, but that's cool because I love that intelligence.
Yeah, definitely.
And so eventually I met this group of people while I was living in southern Utah, because I was just working from home mostly. And they like, one main girl was a part of, like, she had her own kind of online women's business group for entrepreneurs. And even though I wasn't an entrepreneur, I was like, well, I'm a professional, so I want to see what other people are talking about. And so I got on and was just scrolling, and someone posted that they were a Reiki master. And I was like, what the crap is that? What is that even? Is that a word? I Googled it, and it was like energy balancing. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so I decided to go get a Reiki session, and all within the same day. You talk about synchronicities. I learned about Reiki. I booked my first session for the next day, and then I met my soon-to-be Reiki teacher, like, all on the same.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the next day I went and got Reiki, and it just blew my mind. Like, I was like feeling all this stuff, and I'm like, I need to know everything that just happened here. I need to know, like, my brain is
understand
not
it. Yeah.
And so then I found my mentor and reconnected with her, and started learning. Then my mediumship started opening up. I started practicing Reiki on people. I went through all 3 levels of Reiki, and then wanted to learn more about my mediumship, because it was coming in, but it was just really, like, subtle. But I was like, I want to, if I'm opening this, then I want to get good at it. And I feel like there's a way to get good.
Yes.
So I worked with a couple mentors with mediumship, and started doing readings for people, and learned how to do audience readings. And so, and then I just kept getting told by spirit that you're going to quit your job and you're going to do this full time. And so I had a year of resistance where I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I went through all this business school. I did all this work. Like, I'm not going to quit this job that I worked for to go into being a psychic, and it's just like, oh, yeah, you are. And my strongest gift is clairaudience. And so I hear,
Yeah.
That was the first gift that came in, and that was the strongest, and it still is. And so when I hear something, like, it's very clear, I can't ignore it, and it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. And so I was like, okay, fine. And so here I am.
Yeah, you did.
Kind of shortening the story, but here I am.
Yeah, but I love it how you have figured out how to still use that business, experience that you've got and intertwine it with the intuitive side, which is kind of, which with the synchronicities is sort of what I'm doing as well. And, even though that your abilities came online a little bit later in life, it's sort of also a similar story to mine. So in terms of that, it was very sporadic. So you know how you said it was sort of like, what is the word you use, like vague, or when your mediumship first came online?
Yes.
It was similar to me. Like, I didn't know what was happening, and it was like little bits and pieces. But when I found my mentor, it was the same. I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, let's make me good at it. Let's do it good. And I was the same. I had this big career. I was very career driven before I had my first daughter, and had been working in the same industry for, oh gosh, since I was like 18, so like over 10 years. And I was like, yeah, let's just leave that and let's do the psychic medium stuff. So yeah, I love that story. And I also really like how it sort of intertwines in with the podcast topic, which is around becoming a modern day psychic, really, because, or sort of even busting some of those misconceptions that you have to be born with the natural ability, and you're proof that you don't. You can learn how to do it. So that's probably one of the biggest I guess things that people say that don't understand, who aren't from our space, that, oh, you can learn how to do this. Like, I could do that if I wanted to. So I feel like I should, for proof, I should send them your way and be like, yeah, you can. Look at Naomi.
That's what I do when in my classes. I'll do beginner, intermediate classes. I've done like intermediate to more advanced classes for people that have already tapped into their intuition. They've already been doing readings or doing mentorships for other people, teaching them how to step into their spiritual gifts. But there's always more to stretch. There's always more to learn. There's always more things to get better at and to even dive into deeper, because once you start opening up some gifts, then you find that others just naturally start coming online, and then you're like, well, I want to learn about that now.
Yes.
So it just increases, and so many tools just come up and are able to use, and it just really depends on the person and what they're being drawn to. And so yeah, and I think when I started the podcast, it was not just for people that were getting ready to, that were opening up their gifts too, but it was also for me to kind of prove to myself that it could look different, because I said I had a year of resistance of like, no, I'm not going to be a psychic. Like, there was so much in me that had these misconceptions or these assumptions that this is what a psychic is, and I'm not that,
I was the same.
So I'm like, well, if I create a podcast and I start bringing people on to share how they're a psychic and how they're a psychic and how they're a psychic and how they're a psychic, and it can look so different, then it'll also help me start believing more about my role, and more stepping into my role of what I'm doing, and that it's okay. Like, it's okay to be a psychic. It's okay. It's safe.
Yeah. I was the same. I had resistance as well. The first, I remember the first course that I went to do, I missed the first intake because of that resistance. Because I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I really, that feeling inside where you should be doing that, but your human side is like, no, we're not quite there yet. Like, sort of digging their heels in. And then I remember when it started and I didn't do it, that feeling of, I wish I did it. I should have done it. So as soon as it opened up the second round, I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. And I was the same. And that's actually an area that I'm very passionate about too, which is changing the the preconceived ideas of what a psychic is. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, what is your idea of, or what does it mean for you to be a modern psychic?
Yeah. So I feel like all of us have psychic gifts, and it's just about learning how to, first of all, accept those, that is a psychic gift, and to kind of, I guess, how do I want to phrase this? It's an acceptance, but it's also like seeing it in a different light, changing the perspective of what that psychic gift really can do. And so, a lot of people talk about, they just throw out the word intuition. Well, just trust your intuition, listen to your intuition. And everybody has intuition, right? And I just think that really minimizes what it actually is and what it actually is capable of. And so for me to think about a modern day psychic, it's to, I kind of look at it as like, I'm a Marvel geek. And so I love Marvel movies.
I love Marvel too. Sorry.
Oh, good. So I think of like, what really got me past that resistance, or at least mostly past that resistance, was all the cool like Avenger movies were coming out around that time, as I was learning and really stepping more into just being only a psychic and not trying to go back to the corporate world, because I kept doing that. And I remember one day I was watching the movie, and it was like, I think it was Endgame. Yeah, it was the last Avengers movie. And and Spirit was like, just take a look at what's going on. It was the big fight scene, and everybody had come out to, like fight against each other. But it was like, look at every single person, and they're a superhero because they accepted their gifts, and they actually like strengthen their gifts, and they're using them to the best of their abilities, and they're not trying to pretend like they don't have them or that they have all the gifts. It's like, no, I can do this, and so I'm going to do it really well, and I'm going to own it. And now look how powerful I am because I owned it. And so when I think of a modern day psychic, it's exactly that. It's saying, yes, I am a psychic. Here's my unique intuitive gifts, and start to own them and strengthen them and use them in your own unique way, in your life and in your business, like applying them. So you're actually using those superpowers. And it's just like, now I can feel like I'm a superhero, like I'm really stepping into my true power as a unique person because of that. So
yeah, I love that you use that analogy. And I knew you were going to go to the fight scene before you said it. I was like, when you said it, my eyes were like, I knew you were going to go straight to that end. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And as you were talking, before I wrote down unique before you said it, and then because I was like, oh yeah, I've got to talk about, like, you went straight to that, which I love too, which is, I find one of the misconceptions is that you don't have to do it the way that you think other people think it's supposed to be, if that makes sense. So you can, and this is something that I had to come to the realization of as well, which is, just because you think, like, you have this preconceived idea that you're going to be completely unrelatable and people aren't going to be able to talk to you anymore, and you're going to lose all your friends because they won't, understand who you were. These were all the fears that went through my head. And really, I lost like one probably out of out of how many, if anything. They've just been, the response was more than supportive. But you can do it in your own unique way. You get to pick and choose what parts of you take forward, and what parts evolve. And we all are constantly evolving anyway. And the way that everyone's abilities, which I'm going to do another podcast episode on this as well, manifest, everyone's different. So yeah, like so different. Like, of course they would be, which is, now that you know that, you're like, yeah, of course they would be like so different, because we're all so different and unique. But when you are coming back from the start, you know, I have people that say to me, hey, I lost something in my house. Can you tell me where it is? And for me, that's not my area of psychic. Like, I got no
Right.
idea. I don't know where it is. Like, and I remember thinking, oh man, am I supposed to know like where that is in the house? But you know, I remember trying to tune in. No, just hit and miss. Sometimes I might have a semi idea. I can see it's in something wooden, or you know, they're like, "Hey, I found it in a drawer or inside, you know, a wooden drawer or inside, you know, a wooden jewelry box." But it's really, this is one of my passion areas too. So inside the Little Psychic School, at my membership, that's full of lots of different intuitives. When someone does a post like, hey, I've lost my earrings, can someone help me find where they are? I just love seeing the people that is their vibe, and how specific, you know, like they can be at finding lost things. And then there's, you know, people like, what number am I holding behind this piece of paper? Some people are bang
Right.
on. Other people are like,
The
nope.
remote viewing, right?
Yes, yeah, that are really good at that. It's just so interesting to see how everyone's own unique abilities open up. Like there's someone in there that can smell, this sounds really morbid, they can smell death.
Mhm.
Like I'm just like, what? So she knows when someone, you know, has cancer or something that is you know, terminal. She will smell it on, like, what? It's just, to me, I'm just like, that is just crazy.
Yeah, and it probably has something to do with her background and her story of why
100%.
she tunes into that so well. Like
Yes. Yeah.
there's some kind of curiosity about her with that, you know, like it doesn't,
Yeah.
that's one thing I love about all of this. Like it's not, it's intelligent. Like it
Mm.
doesn't just randomly happen. And so that was another ththing moving through my resistance when I received my gifts. It was like, why did you make me a medium? Like, that's so weird. Like, like I knew, and again, growing up, I would get cards read sometimes. And then when they'd be like, well, do you want me to connect to a past loved one? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. And it wasn't that I didn't believe that they could. Like,
Yeah.
I totally believe that you can. If I believe that there's a lot of people out there that can do some crazy stuff, like, and some amazing stuff, but it's just not for me. Like, I just don't want to go there. And so, of course, then, you know, I open up and I'm like, why? Like, what is going on? But it was like, when as I was learning to accept that more and to really step into that, because when I was learning from a mentor, I still thought it was like a cool trick, right? I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Look at what I can do. Boom, boom, boom. But then when it guided me to doing it as a profession, I was like, hold on, like, no, this is just a trick. Like, this is just a cool tool to use when I feel like it, you know, and like,
Yeah.
if I want to, but I don't like a job, like relying on it to support me. And like, I don't know, that's not where I want to be. Um, but then as I was accepting it more and more, you know, and really sitting with, I love my favorite question is why. Like I'm always asking why. I'm a toddler when it comes, but that's where I get all my answers. And then it's like, oh, okay, like that's really cool. And so for me, it was like, it showed me throughout my life, you know, how much I've been seeking and how much I've been like, even going to the different churches and learning about that, listening to other people's beliefs. I loved connecting to all the different ways that people think, all the ways the different ways that people believe, the capabilities that they have. And it just helps me expand my limits as well, because it's like, well, somebody, you know, just like with the lady that can smell, like somebody can do it. So that means I can do it if I wanted to, you
Yeah.
know? So I can expand that. And if somebody comes up to me and asks me to be their mentor and they say, well, I know it's kind of weird, but I want to step into this. It's like, no, that's not weird, because I
Yeah.
know people that do it. And so it's available, you know? And so, um, connecting as a medium has shown me like, I have access to all the people that have ever been alive on this planet, and even more things that are not even, you know, humans and stuff. And
Yes.
so all this extra intelligence that I could just grab and say, is this possible? And I can see different possibilities and stuff. It's like, that's why we made you a medium. And I'm like, like, I get it now. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It is so cool. And
Yep.
I know it's funny how, you were saying that people's unique abilities really connect with also to who they are as a person. But I remember in terms of my mediumship, when I was younger, or even like just growing up, teenager or young adult, because I really didn't open up all of these abilities till my 30s, that people would always come to me naturally when someone had passed. So just like for that, I just had this thing about comforting people and having this understanding of the spirit world and that they were okay. Like I just always had this knowing like they're totally fine, and people would always come to me when someone had passed or like, I just had people who'd lost children even that were, I don't know why, I just feel comfortable talking just to you about it. And at that point, all I'd had was passed over loved ones in dreams. I hadn't figured out how to do that, like while awake. But yeah, it's just funny how that sort of then made sense later on, like why all these people why am I the death person? People always talk to me when someone passes away and I am, how there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable talking about it. I never thought about it, but I was always like, no, I'll have this conversation with you. And I was, very open. So yeah, it makes sense. And I never really thought about that until now.
Yep. It is. It's really cool.
Yeah, and just like randomly, I just had this thought about, how people's abilities, reflect who they are too. I had this one of my students who could see inside your house. Like, so we're talking about remote viewing. She described my entire living room down to the color of the throw on my couch. And do you want to know what she did for a living? Like what her background was?
Was it like CSI stuff or?
No, interior design.
Oh, interior. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so she was used to like, all the details of inside a house. So,
yeah.
So that's why she was like, you have this green throw on your tan colored couch. And I was like,
those are the things that would come out to her.
Yes, yeah. Because I was like, that's never happened before.
That makes sense.
Yes, definitely. So I would say for you as a psychic medium as well, we were talking about the misconception that you can do this the way you want to do it. Like you can make it as unique as you are. But what's probably one of your most common, preconceived ideas that people have about you that aren't from this space? I love hearing this.
Let's see. Well, as far as like skeptics and all of that, like I don't know. I haven't really I haven't luckily really came across that very much. And I think that's one thing that I had a lot of resistance to is like, well, how are people, like it was more not just anybody, it was more like people like that were educated, like what about like educated people or like, professionals? Like I was in corporate. And so it's like, well, what would they think about me as a psychic, and how can I guess get to a point where I can feel comfortable, like even talking to them about it, like showing those types of people, hey, this is really beneficial to even you, it's not just people that believe in this, like anybody can benefit from connecting with me or, help, having somebody help them with whatever they like to help people with, and so, I think that the biggest thing was just like, well, if you're connecting to people that have passed, then that means it's not really real, right? Like, and so I had a mentor that does evidential mediumship, and so that's how I learned. I learned to be an evidential medium and bring forth evidence throughout my readings that was very, very specific to show that yes, I am connected to this exact person, and you can't really deny it.
Yeah.
So,
but some still try to.
Oh yeah. Until you give them that reading, and then they're just like, But I don't know. I even in audience readings, like it's just my personality, or I don't know what it is with my energy, but it's like I find those natural skeptics, and like that's who wants to come in as people for them, and it's like go to this person, and I'm like, I'll do a reading for them, in front of the audience, and then they'll come to me and they'll be like, I didn't even want to show up. Like, I thought this was all crap, but oh my gosh, that was amazing. And it's just like, cool. Like, I'm glad you had a good experience. But yeah, I think people are just, they're just, like you said, don't like to talk about death, don't like to, um, I think some people also don't want that hope, like it kind of sounds weird, but it's like, well, don't give me hope that I can connect to them, or that, that they're still around. Because, with, I haven't really gone into a lot of like learning about the stages of grief or anything like that. Weirdly enough, being in this profession, but I
haven't either.
Like, I haven't, like, because I look at it different. I don't see death as the end, and that was one thing like I never really did growing up either. My grandma passed, and I didn't cry. Like, I was just like, it's gonna be okay, just like you said. It's like, I don't know, like I'm not really too sad, and I don't know why. And then that night she came to me in my dream, and she was like, yeah, you don't have to be sad. And I was like, wait, what? Like, we literally just left your funeral, and now you're coming to me, like, what's going on? But so yeah, I think people don't want that hope, or can't really emotionally handle that hope of being able to still connect, or they they don't have their own definition of what it means to die, and even their own definition of what it means, like, to be a spirit, in a physical body. And that's one thing I work with my mentorship people, like, when they come to me to do one-on-one mentorships, we walk through that belief stage, because it's important to even if you're just coming to me to open up your mediumship skills or your intuitive gifts, you have to have some kind of a foundation, or some kind of a belief about what it means to connect to your intuition, what it means to connect to past loved ones. And if you haven't really thought about that, then you might be more skeptical, because then you're like, well, I don't believe in that. Well, what do you believe in? They might not be able to tell you, because they've never really thought about it,
Yeah, they just can't wrap their heads around it yet. So
yeah,
I totally understand that. And that's something that I like to work with them too, which is, I guess, working on those beliefs and, where their belief systems are, because that is a huge part of being able to do what you do. You got to believe it. Otherwise it's not going to happen. You can do all the training in the world, but if you're not believing that you're connecting, then it's not going to happen. But for me, I guess, if, in terms of the misconceptions, probably one of the most common ones, like, I didn't even think about, the non-believers. I was more thinking about people that think that we know everything, that that there is it's really hard to explain as well that we're not a fortune teller, just getting rid of that idea that we're here to tell you what your future is, because I don't know if you're the same. You're nodding, so I'm going to presume that you are.
Yep,
but
yep.
As we spoke about before I hit record, which is that really there are many thousands of possible, going back to Marvel, timelines as to the way your future can pan out, and so much of it is dependent on you and the decisions and the choices that you make in your life. So I can't tell you how many readings I have had to give that disclosure, because they want an actual outcome, where actually I can't give you that outcome because you haven't decided yet. And it could go this way, or it could go this way, or I could tap into about 3 different timelines, but it's, it's up to you. So let me know. So we can't tell you everything. Also, there's the other one, just quickly, is that we can't give you the answer to everything, because sometimes, one, you haven't chosen, so you've got to decide. Second, sometimes my intentions are always for your highest and greatest good, and sometimes it's not in your highest and greatest good to know the answer to that particular question, because that's going to hinder your growth, process. So I guess you have the same.
Yeah. And I'd I'd probably add one other thing too, is going along with the timelines. Yeah, you can, we can help look at possible future timelines. And like you said, like 3, 4, however many, if you choose this, this is kind of what I'm feeling like it's going to go to. If you choose this, this is where I'm feeling like it's going to go. But again, it's totally up to you. It's your choice. But another thing that I've learned along the way too is that we're co-creating with spirit as well. And so even if we see possible timelines, that doesn't mean that at any moment spirit's just going to come in and like throw all the Legos off the table.
And go, actually, we're doing this.
Wait, we're doing something different now. And even we can't see that because we're like, wait, what is...
And, sometimes spirit give you ideas and you go, not that way. I'm going to do it this way. Like you don't have to do also what they say, which is like the other thing, because we have the choice. We go, I'm quite ready for that. Let me tweak it. Let me just tweak that a little bit. That's a little bit too far for me right now. So yeah, that's a really good one. I always say we co-create our future together. But that's the thing is, when you do tap into these intuitive abilities, then you have the opportunity to co-create with your spirit team or with spirit who do have your highest and greatest good, in mind. So, I mean, it just makes everyone's life better in any particular area. And it's funny because I have people who mentor with me and they go, I don't resonate with the term psychic because I feel like I don't, tell people what their future is. But, and I get that because I never called myself a psychic at the beginning too. But now I feel like, why don't we redefinitionize? Is that even a word?
Yeah. Right.
Why don't we create the new definition of what a psychic is or what it means to be a modern psychic? So we can change that idea. We don't have to attach our name to it because we don't resonate with the fortune teller. Let's just change the misconception that we are a fortune teller. And so that's what this episode is, which is great.
Well, like you said, it could be I'm a psychic and I like helping people find stuff that's lost. That's my psychic power. Or
exactly.
My psychic power is helping people, redesign their living rooms by just popping in and looking without even being in their house.
Yes. And then using her interior decoration ideas to say, move this here and change that color.
That color does not go in that room.
Yes.
Not feeling right. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess like coming to the end of the episode, what, I guess, do you have any like last little things you want to put in there? Or is there something that you wish that more people understood or knew about, being a modern psychic? What are you like? Do you have any like last little points you want to throw in there?
Sure. So the biggest thing that I'm feeling, especially right now, is that, again, just kind of reiterating that acceptance, thinking about what you've already opened intuitively, and then trusting that you can trust that, first of all. That's the biggest thing. Even if it's vague or it's subtle right now, the more that you follow it, the more that you listen to it, the stronger it will get, I promise. And even if it's not logical, you get a lot of that. And it's for your highest good, just like what you said. It's like, follow that, see where it leads. And more often than not, you're going to realize that this is magical, that is the co-creation, is listening to that intuition, listening to those intuitive feelings, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting. All of those are psychic gifts. And the more that you trust those, follow them, it's really going to help you step into your power as a soul, as a human soul. And I think that the biggest thing that we're all doing right now is also expanding what just being human really means. It's like, humans are amazing, and it's crazy how much capability we have. And that's why we're stepping into this, kind of more age of enlightenment, age of Aquarius, like spiritual awakening, people are calling it, and it's learning that we have so much more capabilities than we've given ourselves credit for. We've only been moving from the mind, and our heart's opening up, our intuition is opening up, and our energetics, are opening up like crazy, and we're able to shift and move things just with our intentions, our beliefs. And so and that's, I feel like, still just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what we're learning about ourselves right now. And so you'll want to get on board this train.
Yeah.
I guess is the biggest thing I'm saying. Like if we can already do all this right now, and it's just starting, that means there's so much more to learn about ourselves, and to learn about our capabilities, and to learn about each other, and to learn about our world. And so just if you're feeling called to it, step into it, because that's it. It's its own journey, but it's there's just so much goodness that is available right now, but it just feels like it's like a promise to oh, this isn't even the good stuff, So
Yeah, and I love how you said that, because I've never had anyone that has so if you get a good mentor, just putting that disclosure in there, I've never had anyone that has regretted opening up this side of themselves, like someone that can help you to do it in a, safe, ethical way. That if anything, it's completely changed their life for the better. And your last point was what I had written down, but in another way, I basically wrote down, I think it's an important message to normalize using your intuitive abilities or your psychic gifts, because it is actually our birthright to be able to use these gifts. We all have the opportunity and the choice, or the free will, to use them. So it just enhances, is probably not saying you're not living a happy life. I'm sure, there are many of you that are like, well, I like my life the way it is. Of course, I did too. But if anything, I wasn't unhappy. I was happy in my life, but oh my goodness, I can't even tell you the, magical, and you would say the same thing, changes, the way it enhances your life, everything. It's like a snowball reaction to everything, to every aspect and area of your life. And you said at the beginning, in terms of your introduction, which was helping you to enhance your business and your life, or to bring those up. So I think that at the moment, it is becoming more accepted, but it's still got its way to go. And I think that's important as a modern psychic, is to normalize it and let you can do it however you want.
Yeah. And can I add just one little thing
Yeah.
too? I feel like it's important to also know that you don't have to go into being a psychic. You don't have to go into any profession of this, spiritual woo-woo space. You can be intuitive, and you can open up your intuitive abilities in the spaces that you're in right now. That's
100%
exactly what is needed.
Yeah.
And so if you're a lawyer, be an intuitive lawyer. If you're, like a teacher, be an
the next one I was going to say.
Yeah. Funny. Because I was going to say doctor, and then it went to teacher. How funny.
Yeah. I had teacher in my head. Yeah.
But be an intuitive teacher. Use your gifts now exactly where you're at, because it's just going to strengthen that space, and it's going to, whoever's around you, it's just showing them that it's safe to use their intuitive gifts too, and to call themselves intuitive, and to say, well, that just came to me, and so I'm going to follow it. And for us to just start to trust each other more on that respect, rather than I can only use it at home, or I can only use it when I'm in sound baths, or over here. And it's like use it everywhere.
Yeah, you don't have to separate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a really great point to throw in there, because I'm even thinking about, and you would be the same, the people that are inside the Little Psychic School. We've got a sex therapist, we've got a lawyer, we've got a doctor, we've got nurses, we've got beauticians, and these people have no intention of moving into light work. They're just using it for themselves, like you said. And it's amazing how it's enhanced what they already do. So it's just made them even better. It's like an extra little toolbox in there. But
And the men are in there too. Like I work with a lot of men and
yes,
electricians, builders, home builders, roofers, like
so cool. I love that.
and
That's
they're
amazing.
intuitive now. And so
Yes.
they opened up their gifts, and they're using them in their business. They're using them in how they order supplies, how they connect with certain clients, make sure that, um, everything feels aligned and connected. And so, yeah, it's just like
It's the secret weapon, isn't it?
bread.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you. It's been so amazing to have you. I really love this discussion, like every part of it. Where is the best place for people to find you if they would like to find you after this episode? I mean, I put them in the show notes, but also
Perfect. Well, I don't have my website up yet, so it's just a scheduler if you want to schedule a session, or if you want to schedule a discovery call to do mentorship or sign up for a class. I do classes online through Zoom. And so that's Naomi Haigh, my name together, .as.me. So naomihaigh.as.me. And you can sign up there, or you can listen to my podcast, the Modern Psychic Podcast, on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. So I'm also on there too. Yep.
amazing. Thank you so much. And have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Little Psychics. I wanted to thank you for tuning into the Little Psychic Podcast with June Mack. I am so grateful to have had you here. You can find me over at junemack.com or on all social media at Ms. June Mack. You can also keep up with me at thelittlepsychicschool.com and on IG at The Little Psychic School. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much if you could please subscribe, rate, review, and share. It's been an absolute privilege to be in your ears.